Welcome to the It's Been Said podcast. I'm your host, SAI Executive Director Lisa Ramey. Today's episode is a special edition of the It's Been Said podcast. Matt Carver, Legal Services Director, will discuss his perspective on current legal topics relevant to district and school administrators. He'll offer his insights on this subject matter periodically over the coming months. Let's hear from Matt.
This is Matt Carver, and this is SAI's Legal Vortex. But today I'm going to talk about a topic that I think you'll find fairly timely. I've received quite a few calls in recent weeks about how administrators should handle situations in which they're contacted by parents or guardians who are concerned about immigration enforcement at school. And so I just want to walk through a number of different things. And when I get those calls, the message that I encourage for those administrators to share with those parents or guardians who are concerned. And the first thing that I let them know is that really the best way to describe this to parents is schools have a great deal of experience working with law enforcement, and you're going to work with them in the same way. You have the same expectations and requirements when law enforcement contacts the school, whether it's local police who are coming to the school because they want to ask a student some questions. Maybe there is some alleged drug activity on a weekend or something like that. Whether it's that scenario or whether it's potentially some other scenario with federal law enforcement, perhaps members of ICE who would come to school, and just try to reassure them that the school has processes in place and how you handle those situations. And the first part of that process is that school officials require for those individuals to provide identification. So they want to make sure that they're verifying who those individuals are that have shown up. And again, this is something that you do regularly. Now, the local law enforcement, you might get to know some of them. So you know, well, this is Officer Carver, whoever it is, so you might know them. But otherwise, you do that with local law enforcement, with state law enforcement, and with federal law enforcement. You require identification. All right, so that's first thing. Now, as far as ICE is concerned, I've done some research on this, and I can confidently say that in my research, I've found zero instances of ICE during any administration ever targeting a school to just do some type of like a raid. So imagine occasionally you'll see things on the news about a raid. Maybe it's at a plant somewhere, a large employer, and they do a raid. ICE has never and is not performing any type of action like that at schools. It just hasn't happened. So hopefully that helps to ease their concern. Another thing specific to the immigration issue is to share with those parents or those guardians that school officials do not keep record of the citizenship or immigration status of students. I mean, I guess we could probably come up with some rare scenarios where you have foreign exchange students or someone like that, or maybe someone's with a parent who's in the United States on a work visa or something along those lines. But that's really fairly out of the ordinary. And so, outside of those types of scenarios, this is something due to the Plyler decision, Supreme Court decision 1982, that school officials don't keep track of that. Now, you do keep track of residency as a student or resident of the district. If they're not a resident or they're following open enrollment laws and so forth, you keep track of age of students. But just reminding those parents or guardians, hey, remember when you register your student? Did we ask for any proof of citizenship, of your immigration status, of anything like that? And the answer is no. I mean, it's not just in Iowa. This is throughout the United States. So just reminding them that you don't even have that information. You don't know what the immigration status is of those students who are in your building. And that's just a fact. So reminding them of that point. Now, back to if someone shows up to your building. So they show up to the building and they show identification. So let's say it does happen. Again, this is extremely rare, but let's say it does happen. Then again, like other law enforcement, you'd be asking if they're wanting access to the student, do they have a warrant? So do they have some type of judicial or like a court warrant, which gives them, frankly, a little bit additional access? Or do they have, in the case of immigration, they might have an administrative warrant, which may give them some rights. Now, administrative warrant wouldn't typically give as many rights as far as those law enforcement to go into a classroom or something like that. Okay, it would give them access to an individual, but in a different way. And so with the administrative warrant, then school officials, certainly they could get the student or that type of thing, bring them to the individual, but they wouldn't have the same type of access to go into the classroom. Now, outside of having warrants, and again, this is true for local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, whoever it is. They, in some instances, they may have an exigent circumstance. So, meaning that this is an emergency that they have to get to this individual. So, this might be an incredibly violent individual. They just got information that this individual was carrying a gun, had just harmed someone else, is threatening others, or something along those lines. And that would be an example of an exigent circumstance. Now, if they have an exigent circumstance, you could ask them about it. And if they have that, then certainly then they'd have the ability to protect students in the building and others to go and find this individual, whether it's a student or whether it's an employee. And so that would be something else to consider. Now, let's just say back to they show up, let's say they show their identification, they show a warrant. If you're not sure, you're looking at this, it's a little bit confusing. There's nothing wrong with you asking, hey, would you mind if I contacted my attorney for the district? And in some instances, now they wouldn't necessarily have to allow you to do this, but in some instances, they might allow you to do it. There's nothing wrong with asking that. Say, I just want to make sure that I'm following things the way that I should be. Would you mind if I contact my attorney, have him or her look at this? And again, my guess is they very well might allow you to do that. Now, again, not a right to do it, but they very well may allow you to do that, even if they have that type of warrant. But anyway, so those are some of the things that I would recommend, and just reminders that it's just like local law enforcement, reminders that, hey, we don't keep citizenship, immigration status, reminders that we have our processes of checking identity and all those things. And hopefully, as you share that, it will, and then the reminder too, as I mentioned, that this is just incredibly rare. Okay, it's incredibly rare. The instances where they've gone to schools typically have been if particular students have warrants out relating to things such as gang activity, or there are some instances where they might actually be there to protect the student. And that has happened where that student maybe has been trafficked, and they're there to make sure the student's safe because they have evidence that student has been trafficked or that type of thing. But it's incredibly rare. And then I probably should have noted earlier that if they do interview if the student's in custody, then I'd definitely encourage you. So meaning they don't allow the student to leave an area. They're talking to a student, the student gets up, wants to leave. They don't allow the student to leave, or it might be an office in your building. Then again, just like these conversations I've had for the last 20 years relating to local law enforcement, if they're doing that, then I would say to contact the parent or guardian. In other instances, even if the student is not in custody, you very well may choose to just keep that parent guardian informed. Hey, someone showed up, law enforcement showed up, they asked your student some questions, they went back to class, but we wanted to let you know that they did ask your student these questions. Anyway, so these are really the high points of the things I've talked about with school administrators here recently. Hopefully, by sharing some of this information and your processes and what you go through with parents and guardians, that they'll be a bit more at ease in just understanding that this is one, just something that not happens often at all throughout our country as far as going to schools. And then two, even should it happen, that you have your processes you follow for ICE, for local law enforcement, for all law enforcement. And so anyway, hopefully it's helpful, and I hope you are all doing well out there and stay warm. So thanks so much. I appreciate all of you. Thanks.